Hi everyone, and welcome to today's Google Developers Live session on the Udacity HTML5 Game Development course. My name is Catherine Miller. I'm a member of the developer marketing team here at Google, and I'll be your moderator today. And I'm very excited to be joined by four incredible guests who are going to be talking about this program. We have Sean Bennett, a course architect from Udacity, Sebastian Thrun, who is the CEO of Udacity as well as a Google Fellow. We have Peter Lubbers, who is a program manager for Chrome Developer Relations, and Colt McCandless, who is a developer advocate for Chrome. Little bit of background on this course. It launched about 9 days ago and already has over 46,000 people enrolled. And to give you a little bit of context, that's about 3 times the size of the current Stanford student body. So over the course of 9 days, 3 times the size of Stanford has enrolled and started taking a course, which is pretty incredible. So I'm really excited to be here today to share with you and have them share with you a little bit about how this course came to be, as well as the power of massively open online courses. And so to get started, I'm going to turn to my left and have Sean and Sebastian introduce themselves, and then we'll move over to the right.
Sean, you start.
I'm Sean Bennett. I started at Udacity almost a year ago now, I think. And I've been working on this course with Colt and Peter and Calvin. Hugh, who isn't here today, but is probably the single person most responsible for getting it out.
Yeah, and I'm Sebastian. At Google, I do work like Google self-driving cars and involved in Google Glass, little small projects, but I really care about changing education and bringing high-quality education to everybody in the world, and I think no better place to start than Google.
Excellent, wonderful, thank you.
I'm Peter Lubbers, program manager at Google and the Chrome Developer Relations team. Been with Google for about a year, and prior to that I did a lot of HTML5 training and been really excited just working with this team and taking the HTML5 training to a huge scale that we're seeing right now.
And you really live and breathe and drive HTML5, don't you?
Drive, yes. We have the HTML5 license plate, and Sebastian here is the Udacity license plate.
Yeah.
So came together.
Excellent, excellent.
And I'm Colt McCandless. I've been with Google almost 2 years now. Wow, time flies. In my previous life, I was actually a game developer for about 10 years, making tons of fun stuff, as well as an adjunct professor at Southern Methodist University Guildhall School of Video Game Development. So it's really kind of nice to be able to take all of that expertise and find a new place for it.
Excellent, excellent. It was I don't know what the word is, it's not a trifecta, quadfecta has come together to make this incredible thing happen. So Sean, I'm actually going to start and turn it over to you. So what is this? What has just launched?
So this is our course on HTML5 game development, and really what it's about is how do you take game development principles that we have learned over the past 20 or 30 years and port that to building an amazing experience on the web. And we started this 6 months ago. 6 months ago, somewhere around there. Yeah, right. Wow. I met Colt in a cafeteria here, and he started spewing game development stuff at me.
And he still is.
Yes.
Yes. It was funny too because Sean's eyes just went blank. Yeah. Just like, hey, we were thinking about a course, and I'm like, cool, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And just blank.
Yep.
And it really goes to show you the power of connectivity at Google cafes as well,
Absolutely,
doesn't it?
yeah. Good food brings good times.
Yep.
Excellent, excellent. Well, that's really exciting, and this course has come together on Udacity, and it really has, in many ways, a folkloric story. When Peter came to me and said, I'm like, oh, I've heard that story. So I think we'd really like to hear it from the horse's mouth. So can you tell us a little bit about how Udacity came to be and what it really is?
I give you the cliff notes. About 2 years ago, Peter Novick, who's a director here at Google, and I tend to teach this class, Artificial Intelligence at Stanford. And we listened to Sal Khan talk about how his Khan Academy reached tens of millions of kids. And honestly got jealous and inspired. So we took our class online, we sent out one email, and we got 160,000 students. And we were blown away. But more so, we were blown away by the type of students. These were people from all trades of lives, kids as young as 11 years old, people really old, soldiers in Afghanistan, mothers raising kids alone. So we felt we could reach a huge number of people And we've taken this to a great new level at Udacity. We're now working with a number of companies, Google being one of them, to really bring to people the type of skills that they need in the workforce to really get ready for jobs in this space. If you look at HTML5, it's simply the most exciting thing happening in computer science today, and no college teaches it, so you can't get that skill in the university. And why don't colleges teach it? Well, it's so new that Google cares about it, and many other companies do, but college professors haven't quite caught up, so we try to fill that gap.
That's really incredible. And as I was chatting with Peter yesterday, he said there's actually a technology tie into how Udacity was built, a connection with Google. So with our audience, where we're trying to inspire them to be using Google technology, would love to hear a little bit about kind of the underbelly of Udacity, if you'd like to share.
We would not be alive without Google's app engine, without Google's amazing expertise. Starting a company that basically spans all the way from instructional design, videos, quizzing, to learning management, which is the kind of source that keeps track of your progress, to teacher portals, empowers teachers to understand what's going on, all within a year, it would have been completely impossible. So now it's possible because Google is just such an amazing company with so many amazing services, but specifically excited that we're also working with Google, with my home country, on educating the world and bringing out content.
That's amazing. And Peter, now the other side of that, you had this amazing idea for a course and needed to bring that to life.
Yeah, when I joined Google, I'd come from a background of HTML5 training, but this was instructor-led, fly to some other country, teach 10 people for 2 days. And when I joined Google, one of the main things is we do things at a large scale. And so it was like, how do you scale that up to
40 people?
Yeah. How do you double that? And so the other thing at Google, we're very interested always in metrics. And so one of the things about a lot of the typical classic online learning is people go to a page, they maybe look at a tutorial, but we can't really tell whether they've tried it. I mean, a page view ultimately is a vanity metric. You can have 100,000 page views and nobody's learned anything. So really, it was kind of great luck to kind of run into each other in that space. But we were really looking at how can we scale and how can we get deeper metrics. And now we can see who's done a certain video, but right after the videos, and we'll talk a little bit more about it later, you get a challenge, and you actually have to do some coding. And so with that in mind, you really have, we can see, hey, everyone was able to pass this challenge, but this one is really bad. It probably reflects bad on us as teachers. But the deeper metrics, the scale, it's a match made in heaven.
Yeah, that's really incredible, and it's in many ways kind of the philosophy of Google in terms of trying new things, building new things, getting it out there, maybe having an amazing moment, maybe having an oops moment, and just kind of what can we learn from this? And from a pedagogical perspective, for teachers to have that instant feedback is really powerful. Is really powerful. So Sean, a question for you, and maybe for Colt as well, is you talked a little bit about the importance of it being an HTML5 course, and really that this is something that's so new and innovative that it just hasn't seeped into standard curricula yet. But why games?
I just wanted to teach a game development course, honestly.
Fair enough.
This actually, I think I proposed this to you about 7 or 8 months ago, and I was just talking about, it'd be really cool to teach an HTML5 course. And so we were trying to think of, motivating examples, and we were like, well, let's build some games. And then we got in contact with Peter and Colt, and it's like, well, how do we go about building games? I mean, we're not game developers. We don't know how this works. And
We've got one.
And more importantly, how do you teach it? And I think one of the big things here that we've learned is that it's really important to have code that you're teaching it around, a project that you're building. A lot of our units, a lot of our teaching is built around, okay, they're going to build this entire section of the code base, and they're going to understand how it works at a deep level.
And that's growing up. I had to teach myself how to write video games. And this has been a passion of mine since I was 12 years old. I'm not going to say how old I am now, but anyhow. And early on, imagine how much curriculum you find now for making video games. It's in a lot of places. Back then, there was not. And all through that sort of toil coming up to becoming a professional in the industry, I always remembered, man, I wish I could give something back, which is why I got involved with education at SMU. And one of the things that always bothered me about having something more standard like that is that it's so slow to turn around. And that's why I loved getting involved with the Udacity stuff. We were able to take from concept to first bits on the screen in 6 months, a full course that's touching almost 50,000 users across the world. With a brand new technology that everyone wants to know and everyone wants to be a part of, that's literally on the cutting edge of game development, right? Day to day we get emails and comments and people coming to us asking about how do we make great HTML5 games, and the fact that we have a solution for that and education for these people, it's really mind blowing.
And it really seems as well that the games is many ways the mechanism that they're using to learn the HTML5. So it can in many ways serve both of those purposes, both creating something cutting edge, but actually creating cutting edge games. So it has kind of those dual purposes.
I think one additional thing to add to that is the games tend to push the boundaries of what's possible on any platform, right? That's true for desktop applications or anything. They demand so much from the platform. That's a great way. Like if it works for the games, then it will probably work for less intense sites. And just to add to that as well is this course is built around an actual existing game. It's a full-blown game that Colt actually worked on for months with a small team.
Yeah, that's actually worth pointing out. So having almost 10 years in game development background, the first thing when I came to Google is said, hey, HTML5 is the big thing. Let's actually take game developers' view and apply it to the technology. Until that time, we'd heard a lot of web developers trying to make games, and of course they're coming to that skill set from a completely different viewpoint. So we actually got 2 or 3 other ex-game developers who are working at Google, and we sat down for about 120 days and said, let's make a game in HTML5. Let's take our viewpoint and how we do it, and that's where the Grits game came from.
And it's actually funny because I view this is a course so close to my heart. I think all of education should be games, and being educated should be a gaming experience where you do something and you get to the next level. And before in Angry Birds, you learn how to operate slingshots, and now you can play the game of how to learn how to program a game, which is really cool.
Excellent. That's really incredible. And Sean, what we'd love to do now is actually turn it over to you to show the website and what it's actually like to take the course.
Sure, we can go ahead and look at the site right now. I've got it pulled up here. So this is the main Udacity site. It's got a number of courses up on here, and you can see HTML5 game development.
And with that, can you actually just use that as a chance to talk about what type of courses you do offer through
Absolutely,
Udacity?
Yeah. I think the main differentiator with our courses at Udacity is interaction. It's not about passive learning at all. And so if we go in here to our classroom, which the instructor is currently setting up, and you can see that we come to a video, and it looks like Peter is in the middle of the Canvas unit. He hasn't finished it yet. And there's a short video, but then after that, you immediately get taken to a coding section where the student has to.
Flashing. Right?
Oh, it's flashing.
Okay.
Oh, is it good? No? Okay.
It's a flashing game.
Flashing game. It's a flashing game, apparently.
We're not using Flash.
Okay.
It's HTML5.
Okay,
I can
well,
guarantee you.
We're having some technical issues, so go to the site. But like I was saying, I think the main thing is student interaction. That's the primary difference, I think, that our pedagogy has that other platforms don't necessarily, and that certainly more traditional lecture halls do not have.
Yeah, I guess the wisdom here is the only way to learn how to be a game developer is to write games.
Yeah.
Right. So anything else is like secondary. I mean, you can have an instructor that helps you and assists you, but if you don't write games, you're not going to become a game developer, and that's what we're trying to do. So if you go there, you will write games.
Yeah.
And game developers, in all of my time, I found that they are the most impatient developers I've ever worked with. Because they see Angry Birds and they see Temple Run 2 and they go, I can make that.
Yeah.
And they want their game in the store in like 3 months, and that's what I love about the Udacity format is that it literally puts them in the driver's seat and says, learn it by doing it, and that's the way game developers work. We're very impatient.
Yeah.
We want it done and we want it done now.
Yeah. And I think project-based education is just very powerful for not only teaching you what to do, but also giving you kind of a portfolio at the end of things. It's like, this is something I've built that I can point to. It's not a piece of paper that is maybe worth something, maybe not. It's, I've done this, and that's a really powerful feeling.
And actually that leads in beautifully to the next question, which was actually going to be not just the pedagogy behind this game, but really behind Udacity as a whole and the massive online open courses. So I think you started to hit at that there's kind of a something consistent in all of your courses, which is kind of being problem solving based around that people aren't just passively learning, but they're actually going to be creating something throughout the course. Would you say that that's?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Do you want to add that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, all my own learning has been by trying something and failing and getting up and trying it again. And I've never gotten much out of listening to professors, myself included. But most of them, rather than thinking about like online MOOCs as like taking the lecture and putting it online, we think of it as like taking the exercises and putting those online, because those are much more fun. And we want this we almost want this gamification effect on our students. Like they get into a challenging situation and it's really hard and they spend hours trying to solve it. But when they solve it themselves and they can fall asleep saying, wow, I did this. These are for me the most powerful moments of life when I succeed in solving a problem, and I think the same should be true for our students.
Yeah. To me, it's actually pretty similar to puzzle design in games, is that you have to make the player actually figure it out. You can't tell them how to do it, but there's a right level, right? It can't be too easy, it can't be too hard. It has to have that part where, oh yeah, I get it now. And that's a hugely powerful moment.
Right, and I think a lot of people approach any sort of online class also with what they know from the past. So they say, oh yeah, it's just a video, right? And then when they actually look at it, they're like, oh wow, this is actually completely different. This may actually be even better than what they expected. So it's a shift, a mind shift for many people as well to just get into this for the first time, right? Right.
Absolutely. And I think that you did touch upon this a little bit, the distinction between a MOOC environment versus it being a more traditional environment, but especially for those of you who have been professors, have you seen a shift towards this type of instruction in classrooms, or do you still see that right now these online courses are the place that this innovation in pedagogy is happening?
Well, I mean, to be fair to traditional colleges, a lot of professors try to do this. Like if you go to humanities, you get your homework assignments and you spend the in-class experience discussing it rather than lecturing. In engineering, lecturing is the dominant mode, and it's the only way you can manage maybe 30, 100 students. It's just the best you can do in class. The nice thing about the online is we can do stuff we could never do in a classroom, right? Online can wait for you. You can watch the same video twice or 5 times or 10 times. You give them as much time as it takes to become a master. There's no December 14th, the final exam comes along, and if you aren't prepared, tough luck, we give you like a failing grade. No, you have another month, and just take your time and get to the point where you know how to do it. That's something just you cannot do in a physical classroom, and that's what you get at Udacity.
And I think there also, you mentioned this about one of your passions is the accessibility piece. And I was having fun with this question beforehand because some of our guests have fears of alien ants and zombies, and my thought is, wow, this is amazing. If they're holed up in their houses avoiding zombies, they could still access this course. But I think there's probably a deeper nugget there from accessibility
we do
as
game
well.
development even under zombie attacks.
Yes.
Absolutely. Be with us. Okay.
What else are you going to do?
Udacity should definitely be part of everyone's emergency zombie kit.
Yes,
You can use that, but
yes,
Your zombie kit. Yes, that's a
zombie
good
kit
idea.
includes Udacity.
But
I was thinking of having a teacher called Udacity.
yeah, there you go.
But there is something deeper to that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's, I mean, I think the most powerful way to point this out is that almost, actually larger than 70% of our student population in this course right now is international. They're not US students. And they're from all over. It's not, a few countries here that really stand out. It's India, it's Eastern Europe, it's everywhere. We have a lot of people in the Netherlands. We actually have a number of people in Ghana, I think. It's really, really impressive just how widespread it is all over the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and if you look at this, I mean, 7 of the 10 most fastest growing economies are in Africa.
Yeah.
Right, that's an amazing place to be, an amazing continent to be. And there, I think traditional education is much harder to get by. And I think what's going to happen is they're just going to leapfrog us and everybody else in the education medium. And obviously, with an enormous distribution of cell phones and mobile, there's an opportunity to really go out and educate those people.
Yeah, that's really incredible. Switching gears a little bit, so Colt, you have had the experience of teaching at SMU, as you mentioned, and now you're teaching with Udacity in this much larger, more scaled environment. What's that experience been like?
It's been fantastic, to be honest with you. The teaching at SMU was great. I mean, the fact that they have an entire school dedicated to game development curriculum was fantastic. There was always a little bit of a sort of a focus issue for me there, because you always walk this line about what data you're serving that has to deal with the curriculum for getting the piece of paper at the end of things versus like what's super relevant. And I'm still actually in contact with a lot of my students. During my time there, I probably had about 120 students, and they'll still send me messages and ask me questions and say, I'm having this problem in my career. And that's been amazing, right? What we're seeing, and the reason for that is because they allowed me to come to the table and give them these stories about game development, and teach in a way that fit that setup. And the great part about Udacity is it's like that on steroids, right?
Yeah.
If you actually take our Canvas courses, you'll get sort of our cool little nuggets of information about the games industry, Dangerous Dave and copyright infringement, loading times in Metroid Prime, that's really just at the heart of it. So cool. And the fact that there's already so many students that are on the message boards, finding the problems, fixing issues, answering each other's. Don't take this the wrong way, but as an instructor, that makes my job really easy. Right? When you've got 40,000 students answering each other's questions, you never feel alone. That's great.
And there's more to that too. I mean, when you're answering another student's questions, in my experience, learning how this course works and the code base and everything, you learn more by teaching than any other way, probably. I mean, I'm not a game developer, and part of the challenge here for me was learning how this code actually works, how this game works, and how why it works the way it does. I think is probably the thing that took the longest.
You and Calvin had the hardest job, because you had to translate all this gobbledygook in my head and put it into normal human speak. So hats off to these guys. They worked overtime on being translators.
Right.
So.
Excellent. One thing that I think is really interesting from what you've said, though, especially the interactivity piece. I actually have a background in higher education, and when this massively open online coursework started coming out, my first reaction was, how does that work with some of the benefits or potential perceived strengths of a more traditional environment, kind of the infrastructure of the student body and academic affairs and all of those things that can hopefully drive people to success. But it sounds like in many ways, I think the word somebody had mentioned was self-governing. It seems like these people have actually created communities that are keeping them enrolled in the courses and moving forward.
Look, we live in the 21st century, and it's time for us to go to the 21st
when I was
century.
studying, when I was studying, it was right on the border of that 21st century, so we hadn't quite tipped the balance in my classes yet. So.
I mean, I had this painful experience. I'm trying to partially cover curriculum, the way it's being taught, and do some crazy great things like just go do HTML5 and just do it. And in the class curriculum, there's something called factoring polynomials. And it's just like you take a long polynomial and you have to break into pieces. And I'm a Stanford professor. I've done math all my life, and I've never ever factored a polynomial in my entire life. And I know nobody in the planet who would know why anyone should care about factoring polynomials. So I got together a whole bunch of educators and say, let's make a video on motivating the students why they should care about factoring polynomials. And there's no answer. There's like some mathematicians wrote into the books a long time ago, and just, this is part of it. And we're foregoing all these other opportunities. I think if I had a choice and go to a 16-year-old and learn about factoring polynomials or about HTML5, you should learn about HTML5 because that's so much cooler.
In fact, I can attest to that. I have a 15 and a 17-year-old son. They would agree.
I think there's a lot to be done. I think everybody should be able to be a teacher. Everybody should be able to be a student and a teacher at the same time. Being a teacher is the best way to be a student. We should discover what makes teaching go well. I just refuse to believe that a lecture class with like 500 kids and a professor lecturing chemistry is the best a society can do. It's probably the best we could do 300 years ago, but guys, wake up, we live in the 21st century.
Fair enough, fair enough. So with that, an interesting thing that we are doing with this is a little bit of a hybrid model. There actually is an in-person component to
That's
this,
right.
isn't there?
Yeah, so we're trying something new out and really excited about it. It's basically a study group. So we are launching basically a unit or two per week. And what we figured is like there's a lot of people, for example, I run the San Francisco HTML5 user group. There's a bunch of Udacity meetups in the Bay Area. And we said, why don't we get together a nice room, like 100 people can fit in this room, and do like office hours or study group. And so what was interesting about that is we will also be live streaming that. So starting next week, on Wednesday, and we'll put up the link to that, we're going to have basically a series of, well, it starts on Wednesday, but it's going to be every Monday night. And we're going to be...
Well, President's Day.
Exactly, yeah, because of the holiday. So we're going to be doing this for about 8 weeks on Monday nights. And so we'll be there, Colt, Sean, myself will be there, maybe Sebastian will be there. And we'll actually deal with people's problems. So the idea is people would take the course, they will do everything in the unit, and then bring all their questions to the live stream, to the room, and we'll deal with all the questions, and we'll have a moderator up like we had for today. So really trying to couple that a little bit, at least for the first 8 weeks. You know, we're not going to keep doing that indefinitely, and of course after that it's completely self-serve, the same as everything else. But it'll be an interesting experiment. Yeah.
And have any of your other courses had this hybrid component to them?
The closest we've come, I think, is office hours when we originally started, where we would just have videos that we would put up. Students would ask questions in the forum, and then the most popular questions we would answer in a short segment and put them up on a more or less weekly basis.
Yeah, so Peter and I, Google Hangout was also broadcast over YouTube, and we had 12,000 students at the same time online, just listening to their conversation. And we picked student questions, and we didn't pick all 12,000, obviously. We used Google Moderator to have people vote up and down these questions. And it turns out even 12,000 students don't have 12,000 questions, they have maybe 20, 30, 50 questions.
Well, that's precisely the huge benefit of the scale.
And the interesting thing was that half the questions were technical, and the other half were personal. Like, what does it mean to work at Google? Like, what does it mean to work in the United States? And as a German, how to, as a European, how to get there. And it was really interesting to see how much people benefited from that discussion.
I see. It really does seem like there are just really interesting, innovative ways to be making it scalable, accessible, and yet at the same time really addressing the benefits of what it is to be in a classroom. That while the lecture format may no longer be as relevant, there's still the benefits of interacting with the professor, interacting with your fellow students, and it sounds like you've come up with some really interesting ways of doing that without removing the human element, if you will.
Yeah, we didn't want to just, okay, it's finished, goodbye, we'll move on to the next project. We want to really also learn from, so clearly there's ways that we can improve, and we can get a much closer look if we keep the finger on the pulse of like what's actually happening. So
and I was very excited because there was a lot of crazy game developer stories that we had to leave out of the course that I now have a medium to give to the people. So if you want more crazy developer stories, come to these study groups.
Don't do it.
Great stories.
I want to hear them.
Ben, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I'm your student. I'm in your class.
Excellent, excellent. And with that, I'm not sure if these are statistics that you can share or address, but success rates. So kind of X% of students enroll, and over a certain percent of time, there's a certain completion rate with the classes. Yeah,
the completion rates, they vary between 20% and say 8%. And I mean, they're to be taken with a grain of salt, because it's so easy to enroll. You just go to the site and enroll. And in fact, in the past, half of our classes were taken by people who didn't even enroll, and we didn't even count them in the statistics. But staying through a class is effort. I mean, learning is not easy. I mean, it's like weight loss, right? So I mean, a lot of people sign up for the gym and don't go, and they think they're going to lose weight their way. And if you really want to learn HTML5, you have to come to class and really participate, and that's hard.
It's not just osmosis.
And these are real challenging classes. These are not watching YouTube, I don't know, animated comic strips.
Absolutely. So, Colt, many of the people who are on the stream now are maybe enrolled. Some may not. For those who haven't gotten started yet, or maybe partway, or even are considering, why should someone take this course?
Great question.
Yeah.
So this all, in my opinion, goes back to what does a degree say about your skill set, right? And for game developers, you know, anytime you've been in an interview, like the person looking at your resume says, "Do you have a degree?" Okay, check. Then you go to the interview process and you realize that you get questions that have nothing to do with your undergraduate curriculum or anything, right? You actually get the in the trenches questions. And that's what we've tried to present in this course is what does it really take to write an HTML5 game? Not write an HTML5 app or an HTML5 web page, write a game leveraging the power of HTML5 technologies. And so the students that are in this class, if you're interested in writing games and you want to make HTML5 your primary method of choice, this is the right place to be because you're going to get that in the trenches experience, that in the trenches technology that you can't find in tutorials, you can't find in standard academia. This is really the primary place to get it, and Udacity's done a great job of actually exposing this to the users. So if you want to make games, start here.
And Sean, there's a little bit of an incentive built into this as well, isn't there?
Yeah, there is.
For us or for them?
Everyone.
Everyone. So yeah, we're running a contest that we'll be announcing and putting a link up to, where you build your own game, and we'll be voting on them. We'll have students vote on it, and we'll also be judging games that people make by the end of the course. And the winners get some fairly interesting prizes. Do you want to talk about that?
Well, so I worked on getting at least one ticket to Google I/O this year, which, as anyone that's been trying to get a ticket knows, that's really, really hard to get. So
I'm not even sure I'm allowed to go this year.
Yeah,
probably not.
It's a good.
yeah.
It was your ticket.
We'll talk offline.
Okay. And then, of course, the other great prize.
And the other is the other part of the grand prize is a future cameo appearance in a Udacity course.
Right.
So we'll,
full trip paid and everything.
Yeah.
Right.
We'll get you out here. We'll put you in a course for a little bit, and
And if I happen to be with a self-driving car,
who knows, right?
take you for a ride.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
But the thing I like about this contest is it's not actually about completing the course. That's not the goal. The goal is actually building something, building your own game, or building a game with a group of your friends, right? And that's, I think, the power of this course and the power of what we can do with this.
Excellent. Those are the questions that I have. Before we move over to the moderated questions, any final comments? Have I hit them all?
I think so.
Excellent.
Let's move to the
well,
students.
we've had a very, very active Q&A board going on, so I'm really excited to jump right into those. So the first one that we have is for Colt. And the question is a game like the one we are building during the course, one that uses Canvas and Box 2D, is it portable to a native mobile app using PhoneGap or similar technologies?
Absolutely. This is one of the great things about writing an HTML5 technology is, at its core, it's really built to span devices in a number of mediums. Now, when you're using PhoneGap or sort of WebView components, you have to do some modifications to the source code, especially dealing with the fact that PhoneGap doesn't have WebSocket support. So you actually have to go get the socket.io plugin and install that for PhoneGap. There's tutorials on how to do this online. But the core principles are there. The core principles work. The standard source code works. Besides, there's some modifications you have to do with the native wrappers. But other than that, that's one of the great things about HTML5 as a technology. It definitely is there and it's definitely usable.
Great. And we'll continue with you for the questioning for the moment.
All right.
The Udacity HTML5 Game Programming course content, will it have basic or advanced content such as physics, HTML5 database, WebSocket, additional JavaScript libraries?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we did when we took the GRITS framework as a game, we actually split it into two components, is the server side and the client side. And this first class is actually just all the client side components. Hopefully we'll get a chance to do a server side soon, guys, on that side of the table.
Yeah.
Maybe. So the client side stuff actually involves a lot of things like canvas rendering, physics, of course with Box 2D, as well as other principles that are needed for game development specifically. So talking about object-oriented patterns, entity patterns, how to load maps, how to use editors properly, how to actually get your sounds playing. Really, this first class is everything you need to do to get pixels on the screen, sound in your ears, and things bumping into each other in awkward manners. Yeah. Hopefully the next course we could actually talk about things like WebSocket, Node.js, how to host things, how to actually get player versus player environment, real-time networking, collision detection that's all networked. There's many good things to come out of it.
Okay, excellent, thank you. Peter, this is a broader question. Could you please post a roadmap of web development the way you see it? There are endless.
Wow.
And you got that.
Maybe this is good feedback for marketing. I think I'm asking you and then you. There are endless resources for education all over the internet. One might get lost quickly without a guide.
Wow, that's a great question. Yes, so, well, we're doing our part. I think, as Sebastian mentioned, we're really excited to build more, right? And I mean, the exact details of when the next course and all of that, we don't have that yet, but we're very excited. And clearly, it's not going to be just this course or a series of courses on Udacity. We're actually working on a lot of different initiatives around this, things like webplatform.org to sort of have the one canonical reference for all of the documentation of the web. Great courses like this. There's other web development courses. Yeah, I mean, if you follow us along, we'll try to come up with this roadmap.
It's a big question.
Right. That's a big undertaking.
It is. Any additional thoughts?
I completely agree.
Nice.
Excellent. And Sean, this is a question for you. What do you think about using TDD or unit testing? Actually, maybe it's a question for Colt. Either can jump in.
Okay.
Using TDD or unit testing for game developing. I have seen you use Jasmine at the tests. Do you have plans to introduce this technology at the course?
Okay, we are using we were using Jasmine. We're switching over because there have been a number of technical issues with some of the grading, which we are working on fixing. Thanks for sticking with us.
Sorry.
But I would love to do that. I think doing TDD or BDD is a course at least in itself.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't think interleaving it with this is really the right way to do it. Colt, I leave it to you for what its bigger role in game development.
Yeah, so let's put it this way, is that debugging is sad, testing is awesome, right? So it's really bad to actually have to drill through a million lines of code to figure out why something's broken. It's really nice when a unit test tells you it is. That being said, it is not done in game development enough because a lot of the game development process is very iterative. You have to imagine that you've got designers and artists and programmers and producers and business people all pouncing on top of you to create this amazing piece of content that's going to touch millions of people across the world. And because of that, you have to iterate. You got to be really quick. You got to put in code, put in content, rip it out because it's not fun, evaluate that feedback loop. And with that, there's not a lot of testing done and unit systems and automation. And that's wrong, I think. I think we should add a lot more of that.
Yeah, what you just described is true
yeah,
for Google as a company.
Exactly, right?
That actually sounds like building a course.
Exactly. and that's why I think a lot of it should be adopted, right? A lot of game developers take the incorrect view is that, hey, I'm going to write this code and put it up there and make $1 million, and then that code base is done. Well, that's incorrect, right? I've worked for companies that were using code bases that were almost 12 years old, right? I mean, and still did not have unit tests anywhere in that code. So as a game developer, learning this is a very good strategy, not necessarily as a game developer, just as a good software engineer. So I think there should be more of it in game dev. If you're out there and you're listening, definitely take advantage of it.
Excellent. Excellent. Good message. And you seem really enthusiastic, so I'm going to throw you another one.
Sweet. Awesome. It's the caffeine, really.
Yeah.
Will you also use some HTML5 game developer framework like Crafty.js or Lime.js during the course? I know that these are the basics with Vanilla.js. Maybe some framework usage could be applied in SQL courses.
Yeah, so our goal for this course is to give you as much to-the-metal processing as possible. We don't want to teach you how to use someone else's framework. We want to teach you how to write things from scratch, because it's the difference between teaching a man to fish and teaching a man how to be a fish. I think that works. So the only does that work? I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah. So the only actual other library we use is box2d.js, which is an entire physics and collision library. And the reason we do that is because we really didn't have enough time to teach you everything about physics and collision. Besides that, we try to keep any other frameworks out of it. In the future, like I said, if we do get a chance to do some server-side courses, we're going to be talking about Node.js, Socket.io, basically these tack-on components that are really easy to drop in and provide functionality that aren't part of your core game development. So, maybe we'll see a little bit more of that in the future.
Great. Now a question for you, Peter. HTML5 seems to have no solution for protecting code. Are there any upcoming technologies that look to protect my code from unauthorized use?
Yeah, that's definitely one of the classic things that people will raise as like, okay, that's a problem for my game. Of course, you have the standard ways to obfuscate your code and things like that, and compress and so on. But that remains a little bit of a point for people. Not sure if there's a lot of immediate things coming out in the near future around that. I don't think that's changing. I mean, in a way, the beauty of a lot of the web is that you can view the source of it. That also has the downside of viewing source on it.
Well, and I talk to a lot of game developers about this problem, and they're very hesitant about protecting their assets when they move to HTML5. And there's a couple different ways you can take it. First off is you can view all the source code for Gmail. Right? Yet reverse engineering Gmail is actually a pretty daunting task. And the code that actually ships to the client, as far as game development is concerned, is really just the tip of the iceberg. Like, if you've ever done game development, you realize the massive part of code and content you generate is all on the back end, with tooling and setting up user databases and understanding content creation pipelines, compression, texture generation. The tools involved are monumental in scope. What the user actually gets on the client side is really small.
So we need another course, a backend course.
That's right.
I like your style.
Or maybe a few courses.
I like your style.
But I mean, really, what you get is there's so much rich interactivity now on the client. But the code that's doing that is really not the sort of the business logic. That doesn't have to be shipped down to the client either. So yeah, it's like Colt said. You have what you need. You're probably not going to find a lot of secrets in there that people don't want to give away. So
I see. And I think we're going to continue speaking with you. Lots of
Fantastic.
game-oriented questions,
That's
but
good.
Others, please jump in as you have responses. With the recent improvements to WebRTC, do you think it would be possible to create multi-person MMO voice chat systems?
Ooh.
Yes.
Yes. I
Yes.
think
Yes.
you can do that right
Yes.
now.
There's a
Yeah.
startup company's doing this
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
Yes.
in fact,
You can.
I'm thinking it might be good for the Udacity platform.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yep.
Got it. The main thing holding back web-based games in my mind is lack of controller support. Do you know of ways either being considered or already being worked on to solve game input?
Absolutely.
Gamepad.
Its gamepad support was actually added to Chrome as of Chrome 18, I believe.
Yeah.
This will actually support your Xbox 360 as well as PS3 style controllers, and I do believe this was part of the spec and actually is inside of WebKit too, so that means you'll have that access inside of Firefox as well. I don't know if there's any other controller support APIs that are available there yet. Like, I know there's some neural controls that are sort of making their way around, and also Connect controls and things like that. But I know the spec as it is, you do get access to handheld controllers.
Excellent. So this, I think probably would love comments from both sides. Can you offer a certificate or college credit or employer credit from Google for student achievement?
Wow.
Start with college.
Well, so Udacity has gotten involved heavily in college credit, not at the HTML5 class, because it's not a class that's being taught right now. But I would encourage everybody who completes this class and is in college, just go to your college and say, I want this for credit, and see what happens.
Yeah.
Because the skill you learn is probably better and stronger than most computer science classes I've seen in my life. And that's the way it should be going. Employer credit, Udacity has helped students find jobs. So we look at student profiles, we have profile pages and so on. We have about 300 or so, 350 I think companies right now that look at those CVs. And they've been actually asking for the kind of skills that this course gives to students. I mean, a lot of companies go to the web right now and need interactive skills for their products and so on, for their websites, and they're becoming more and more game-like. So it's a great skill to have. Is there guaranteed employment?
No, but I think it's definitely shifting. So in the past, it was really like resume-based, and now it's much more like, okay, so you're a JavaScript coder. Well, where's your GitHub repository? You know, like, how are you? If you're not known in the community, then that's already a red flag, and you can have all the resume you want for that. So, so it's definitely shifting. Again, there's no guarantees. Take the class, get a job, but I mean,
yeah, I think the employer credit is much more, you know, portfolio based essentially. I think if you have that, then you're going to get employer credit.
Yeah. The other thing we found is in talking to employers that there's skills that are non-obvious that really make a difference, which are the soft communication skills. So in every class we find these like 10 or 20 or 30 students who are just immensely good in helping other students. And that's something that employers care about, because no problem in real life is ever solved with a single individual. They always solve with teams of people that involve multidisciplinary business people and legal people and so on. So those are imminently more valuable. So if you're engaged in the class, I recommend to you help others. It's actually a good thing for yourself, for others, and for employability.
Yeah, we've actually hired a few of them.
So it
works.
They're really awesome people.
Yeah, they're amazing.
It's kind of the contest. It really addresses some of this as well in terms of the incentive to create something that could go into a portfolio, as well as the opportunity to guest star.
Yeah.
Or you start your own, or you start your own company and make the next
exactly
Angry Birds and buy the company that didn't want to hire you.
Yeah.
Excellent. Udacity question here. Does Udacity also have plans to host collaborative projects and maybe include top students in the classes into those projects? I think this can be a significant experience for students and may attract more employers.
We would love to. I'll leave it at that.
We've got, we have a secondary website that's Udacity Projects. I forget what the exact URL is, but where we created for the web development course, the basic one, where students would host, you know, their blog or their project that they made after they had completed that course. And a lot of them had, you know, really cool ideas that were just, you know, little things that were useful to them. It wasn't necessarily something that they wanted to build for someone else. They're like, now I know how to build this, so I want to, and I'm going to.
Yeah, on that side, it wasn't collaborative, but one student from Germany built a search engine for video games, videos, and I showed it to the executive team at YouTube and said, look, this is how your search or access of YouTube videos should look like, and this is what you're doing right now. And without going into too much detail, that specific piece of work was just blow away amazing. It had a way to index many videos at the same time. You could type in a keyword like George W. Bush, and then it would find the mentioning of all these names in all these videos, and then make a new video that just superimposed all these mentions, and it was a really cool experience.
Very cool. Shifting back to HTML5 and games, a little of an opinion question. The good and bad parts of HTML5 games.
Ooh.
I'm going to let you take that one first.
Well, I mean, of course, the good part, also a couple of other questions raised is like, so the portability, just having a link to a place and being able to instantly play that, that's really the good part, the incredible reach you would have. Bad part, I mean, right now, there are certain things, let's say if we're talking towards everything is moving to mobile, there are certain lower level APIs, like the device access APIs and things that are not completely there yet, but it's moving very fast. I mean, here at Google, we're working really, really hard to make that happen, getting closer and closer to that. Sometimes you see a specification for that, and it needs to, of course, be in all the browsers, so it takes a little longer, but that might be a bad part, I guess.
The velocity has been fast. It's quite amazing. I mean, I used to think that you had to have low-level machine access to do something interesting.
Right.
And that's really changing now.
And it's getting a lot closer, and that's kind of one of the pros and cons I have for web game development is that you can do a lot of amazing things with HTML5, but you kind of hit the top of the limit when you try to reach a certain experience, right? When you try to do more than about 300 to 500 draws on a canvas per frame, you actually kind of max out even on desktop machines, right? So getting above that, getting more of that performance is going to be your cap. And game developers are constantly demanding more. So if you're kind of doing a 2D environment type game, HTML5 works really well. If you're really trying to do something 3D and immersive, you got to kind of go over to WebGL, and that's got a whole different suite of performant environments. One of the other bad sides is that because the web is fantastic, or Chrome specifically is great at actually being very secure, we reduce your ability to get access to like lower level file systems, which means that we kind of get rid of the ability that games need to actually cache local content. So if you've actually looked at the latest statistics, most mobile games nowadays are anywhere between 1 and 4 gigs worth of content. As you see this curve start moving towards the web, you're going to try to start transferring 4 gigs through a Wi-Fi connection to someone in a coffee shop. Like, this actually doesn't work very well. And so I'm very concerned moving forward about the ability to decompress content, store content, game developers getting that content first pixel to screen. Getting rid of load bars has been something that I've spent a lot of my career trying to do. And now we're seeing all of these same problems come back in HTML5 web development.
Do you think there's going to be a solution for this, for HTML5? That your phone just caches vast amounts of web data?
I think so. So there are some solutions in flight, things like app cache and index storage and file system, and I think those are good starts. I think app cache obviously has a lot of problems because it tries to obfuscate too much from the developer, right? Game developers, we're used to having control of like the native file system, and because of that, we've got 30 years of technology that show us how to properly segment, cache, flow, things along those lines. Until we get that level of control in HTML5, I think we're going to have problems. So I hope we get there one day. I really hope that the web developers realize that, again, games push the limits, and if we want to make web apps great, we should support game development, because that's really where you want to be.
Yeah.
So I think if you believe this too, email your congressman or international political representative or something else.
About HTML5?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
You could put a platform up about the Death Star. So.
There you go.
Yeah,
that's right.
exactly.
We have remedial classes in math on the web as well for congressmen.
The guests today have been incredibly generous with their time. Wanted to do a quick time check. We're coming up on about 11:30. We have some additional questions to ask. If people have a little bit more time, maybe take a couple more questions.
Sure.
Okay,
Absolutely.
excellent.
Just want to mention, we will go through, we're not going to get to all the questions. There's been just incredible amount. We will go through afterwards and answer all of them. Don't worry.
Great. So why don't we
Top-rated
take
questions.
two or three more questions? That
Sure,
work?
yeah, sure.
Great. I think you guys have hinted at thoughts around this already, but what is the chance of a part 2 course or other platform-dependent content?
So I think everyone would love to do that.
Yep.
I think everyone is ready to go ahead. The question is, what more do we do, really, from my end? I would love to, like you were talking about PhoneGap and porting to mobile, I would love to do some content on how do you actually port to a mobile, because that's a huge market. I don't know, who you guys?
Yeah, same. We're actively thinking about it. We don't have any firm plans yet, but really mobile performance, the server side of grids, of course. That's the.
It really step one is everyone take a nap.
A
lot goes into this course. Calvin, go to the gym, do some rock climbing, get some sleep.
Yeah. He climbs a lot.
He does climb a lot.
Yeah.
He's huge hands. One of the interesting things is that if you guys love this course and you want to see more of it, then definitely make your voice known. Get your friends to take the course. Let's make this a smashing success, so it's a slam dunk that more people are interested in it, and then we should definitely do a second course. So email your friends, email your family, get your grandma to take the course. She needs to know how to program HTML5.
I have to admit, I'm actually impressed that you guys can talk about the second course at this point in time, after all the pain and the hard
It's like having a baby.
Having a baby, there's a certain period where you just don't want to talk about it, and you're talking about it second course already. I think all of Google is currently looking at the experience of this one class to see how it comes together, how good it is, what's the feedback from the community.
No pressure.
So again, I mean, I should also emphasize for you on there online, there's a lot of flaws in the course. We have
Yeah.
grading difficulties and so on. We're redoing some videos. I got stuck in the course, I should openly admit, but I'm not a very good back programmer. So send us suggestions and be somewhat patient with us as we explore this new medium. It is going to be so much better the next time around, and that's what we're really shooting for.
I think that's one of the most powerful things about these online courses, that we can constantly iterate. You know, if there are problems, and people have been amazing about pointing them out in the forums or sending me emails about it. They really have, and they've been mainly positive and like, hey, we know you've got a lot on your plate and you've got all these things you're trying to do. I'd really like it if you added this or changed this, or I wasn't sure what you meant when you said this. And that's been amazing. And I think going forward, iterating and improving this course is going to be really powerful.
That's great. One more quick question before we wrap it up, and I think that this is quite a pragmatic question. I would like to know, in this course or another, different ways on how to monetize a game, which is actually something very top of mind for work that I'm doing within marketing, which is not just bringing technology and training, but what do you do with it once you build that amazing portfolio? So. Any thoughts on that?
That's an additional course.
The business of game development.
So I'll say this. One of the reasons I've always loved game development is you have to be great at everything to be successful, right? You have to bring great content with great technical chops, with great marketing and great reach and exposure. And all of these things have to come together in this minute little potential orb, right? And if this potential orb doesn't get out to the masses, it just all fails apart. Marketing and monetization are at the core of every game developer, especially since 2009 when we saw the indie developer explosion, right? When smartphones came on and when we saw the boom of social gaming come on, like everyone wants to leave their big company right now, start their own company and do monetization. At its core, it's a very difficult process. That being said, there's tons, probably more now than ever, of research in this area, documents in this area, people specializing in this area, understanding the tricks, the nuances, should you use this word or that word. Like, there is better statistics out right now on the web about how to monetize your game and the things you need to do than there are how to program your game. So take that into account. And that's actually a great suggestion. I think that's something worth looking at moving forward.
Okay, excellent. And final question. Zombie apocalypse or space ants?
Listen, so I, for one, welcome our new insect overlords. May they crush the zombie horde under their tentacly grasps.
The zombie horde will just overrun them.
Go with the zombies.
Zombies.
Zombie space ants.
Ooh. You know what? Always bringing people together.
I know.
That's what I
Diplomat.
like.
It's what I do.
It's
what I
Going
do.
for president.
Yeah.
Yes. I like it. I like it. Fantastic.
Excellent. Well, I would just like to give a huge thanks to our guests, Sean Bennett, Sebastian Thrun, Peter Lubbers, and Colt McCandless. And again, I'm Catherine Miller from the developer marketing team. This has been a really engaging conversation. I hope the audience enjoyed it as much as we all did. That's all the programming we have for today, and definitely encourage you to continue tuning in to Google Developers Live for office hours, incredible programming on Google technologies, as well as original inspirational programming. Thank you for your time.